Thanks, Leon. Well, thanks very much, everyone, for giving us a little bit of space to tell you what we've been doing in the School of Ed in terms of engagement. I'm going to start off just with the first example. These are quite small projects. My background before I came to university last year was in schools for a very long time, mainstream secondary schools. So I had a sort of a affinity, or I was anchored there, shall we say, and from that it led on to this first example. So a sixth form conference was organised for local sixth formers across Bristol, and the key question I thought that I wanted young people to consider was, how do we talk about the climate emergency, and how do we use our voice for change? It's that notion of from anxiety to insight to being able to articulate a position, and from that to move into perhaps action. So the purpose really we set out was, we thought, first of all, a clear science-based picture of the expected effects of climate change. And Professor Rich Pancoast did a brilliant presentation for the young people on that initially. An opportunity to listen to and question key experts, actors and activists. The chair of the Environment Agency, Emma Boyd, kindly agreed to attend and was able to give the position of the Environment Agency to the young people. And we had Extinction Rebellion activists there as well giving a presentation. A forum to debate how to respond within the short time remaining to avert the worst scenarios being realised. I think on reflection that's a little bit ambitious, but that was one of the purposes of it for the young people. And an opportunity to develop personal agendas for action. So that's what we hoped to achieve. Moving on to the aims. So we wanted them to gain a clear and informed understanding of what the likely impacts of climate change will be. As it's a moving scenario there, we'll appreciate that. But from an expert such as Rich Pancoast, they gained that picture. Develop their own ideas regarding appropriate responses to being in a climate and ecological emergency as citizens of a democratic society. That was an area I was particularly interested in, as well as leadership and developing leadership qualities in young people, how to act with the situation we have, and yet within or not within democratic boundaries. I think that was an area we wanted to explore with them and give them some political knowledge there that they could add to their stock when they decide to do whatever they're going to do. Develop the knowledge and skills and motivation to shape the discourse on climate change in their schools and local communities. The idea would be, at the end of the day, they would be better equipped, better armed perhaps, to go out and engage others with the issue, and gain the confidence and ability to communicate about the climate emergency and create action plans for exercising leadership in their communities and schools. Those two are very, very similar, I guess. And we also got them to create a futures-orientated People's Manifesto for Technology, addressing both how current industrial inertia and resistance can be overcome, and what new technology can do for all of us to mitigate the impact of climate change. And we had a technology expert in terms of green technology, a local engineer with a long practice in this area, to present to the young people as well. And that happened to be a very popular, from the evaluation, a very popular input. And so we had some manifestos for technology at the end of that. So I think the evaluation was a successful day. We had about 54, 55 young people there on the day. What I noticed was that the social and economic diversity of the young people was very, very narrow. We weren't reaching the young people that we wanted to, or include other young people in the event. And so it led on from this to the second example, which I've just been this morning to the Bristol Institute launch, which you have to go to in order to sort of receive the funds, I guess. So we developed a bid, which I put in last year, and just at the end of term received the acknowledgement that we were successful. So we have a small pot of money to do a research project, which is entitled From Anxiety to Insight to Action. How can we best support young people from diverse backgrounds to make their own response to the climate and ecological emergency? And just very quickly, there's three research aims. This has not started yet. The team has met today to get things going. The research will explore the current mindset of young people from diverse backgrounds regarding the unfolding climate and ecological disaster. From that, it will seek to ascertain what types of knowledge and understanding they feel would enable them to better deal with the issue in their own way, and to discover how they would like to learn, for us to discover how they would like to learn and experience this knowledge and understanding, which leads into the third area. This looks like it's tacked on, but it's not meant. It is integrated into the projects. One of the challenges we've got to get this seamlessly together, working in collaboration with a local artist, local Bristol artist, who's a sound engineer and does installations. The project will also explore how arts-based experiences can facilitate learning about the climate and ecological emergency in young people from diverse backgrounds. And we've got three groups that we're going to focus on. One is a local group from the eastern part of Bristol, Somali girls group, youth group that we're working with. There's a disabled group of youngsters that we're working with, and there's a group we're working with who are currently out of school, who are not engaged in schooling as such. And the focus or the expertise from this, it comes from the Creative Youth Network, which local people in Bristol will know is a sort of central hub for youth groups and youth work with disadvantaged, vulnerable and marginalised people in Bristol. They reached some 5,000 to 7,000 young people last year, and that's the channel, or that's how we're going to gain contact with these young people and do the project. Just very quickly on, because just to echo something that was said earlier regarding the cross-discipline nature of the way this work has to be. This is the team, and you can see there, mean nothing to you, except that we have obviously science expertise, we have expertise in mental health from Miles. I have experience of leadership and policy. Oscar is very much interested in social movements, civil disobedience, Extinction Rebellion activity. He's getting a book out on that early next year. Lauren is a master's student, one of my master's students at the School of Ed. She's also a local teacher, and she's an XR activist who actually spoke at the Sixth Form Conference and has sort of come into this. And then we have Emma Cook and Amanda Colborne, essential elements in the success of this project from We the Curious, which is the science facility, the main science facility, educational science facility in Bristol. And then last but certainly not least, Joe himself, who is the artist in residence at Creative Youth Network. So there's great hopes for this, and hopefully next year I'll be able to report on what the research discovered.
So Lauren did a maths education teacher training course before she started the Masters. So I want to talk about two quite small examples as well, and then raise a few questions that might lead to discussion. So the first also came from a very small amount of money, and I understand the fund is being relaunched, but there was a Green Apple project, and I've seen Ash in the audience somewhere, maybe she's gone, who gave us the money. It was just a very small piece of money which was given to the teacher education group to try and explore how our teacher education course might support our students to think about how their subject teaching can come into dialogue with global issues. We met what it supported. It's been going now for 5 years, and it supported meetings which occur, just 3 meetings over the year where we get together with interested prospective teachers and in-service teachers and university staff, really just sharing resources, sharing ideas, sharing possibilities. I think there have been some interesting findings, and one is that when our students go out into school and say, I want to do something linking my language teaching to climate change, for example, it's universally positive, the response they get from schools. Schools are always encouraging. And the teachers who are in service say, we just don't feel we've got enough time to do this ourselves. So I think one important finding for us is that actually this teacher training year, this teacher education year, is one space in the system where we can create the time for prospective teachers to think about these issues. Some experiences of the kind of narrative of this is for you to sort out have been shown to be very ineffective, and some lovely examples of imaginings of future scenarios being much more engaging for young children. So this is ongoing work, and in fact, I and Vals published a chapter from a group of teachers engaged in this work in a recent book that they published a few years ago. And the second project is also GCRF funded, and it's just started, and I'm involved in this, and this is actually taking place in Mexico. And I guess this echoes a number of the themes that have emerged through the day. So it's starting off working with 2 communities, one in Tlaxcala State and the second one in 2 areas of Mexico City. In the first one, which is quite a rural community, the community lives on the 3rd most polluted river in Mexico, which apparently sometimes smells so bad that they can't actually go to school. And the thing that struck the scientists working there and was really the inspiration for the project was that there's nothing about that river that makes it into the school curriculum. And so the network really is just asking the simple question of how can we alter that? And it's actually surprisingly complex because there is a mandatory curriculum with a national textbook that defines what needs to be taught in each lesson in both science and mathematics. So the network is bringing together scientists, teachers, teacher educators, policymakers, community leaders to try and share knowledge about how that might happen. And we've only just begun. We are finding that the knowledge of the NGOs who have been working in those communities for the last 20 years is, of course, absolutely critical. I just want to raise then a couple of broader sets of issues. And I suppose the first is what kind of responses or answers. I had answers there maybe in the first one. I'm not sure we're going to get to answers, are we? But I wonder if it's worth considering what possible outcomes we might get from our research. And I guess for me, what's behind that is I'm not necessarily convinced this is about finding solutions, or I'm not sure whether solutions are a helpful way of framing what we're going on. It seems to me we're beyond hopes of saving something. I'm not sure it's helpful to think about something we can get back to. And even idealized images of possible futures seem to me potentially counterproductive. It seems to me we are, and many, of course, communities know this deeply already. Crisis as a permanent condition. Paradox, partiality, the mixed up nature of things. We were talking on our table about the difference between mitigation and adaptation. And of course, many communities are having to and have spent many years adapting to climate change. And perhaps there's a lot we can learn from those in terms of living with crisis. And I've just got one slide here just about how some of that paradox just plays out for here in Bristol. So we've declared a climate emergency as a university. In fact, the city's declared a climate university, the government has. So sort of 3 layers of emergency. And we're doing a major building project where I happen to know that budget is being prioritized over sustainability. For example, there was a proposal that the top 4 floors could be made out of wood, but that was going to be too expensive. We have reached a position where we're not wanting to grow our student numbers anymore. We've agreed with the city that there will be a cap on student numbers, and the growth that's already in train will basically mean we get there. So what's happening is we're now being told we have to substitute home for international students in order to balance the books. So these seem to be two examples of paradoxes, which makes me wonder even whether, as a sort of globally elite universities, are we really just becoming gatekeepers for the global elite? OK, so I'll leave you with some questions from David and myself. Thank you very much for your attention.